Recent developments involving the South African Police Service and the Quality Council for Trades and Occupations have raised very serious concerns about proposed changes to the firearm training standards in South Africa. These changes could impact everything from how you get licensed to how safely firearms are handled across the country. Today, I'm joined once again by Jonathan Deal, the founder of Safe Citizen, to break down exactly what is being proposed, who's behind it, and why many believe this could have very far-reaching consequences. Jonathan, good afternoon and welcome back.
Well, thank you. Always good to be with you. We seem to have lots and lots to talk about presently.
Yes, these stories just keep on writing themselves, unfortunately. There's a lot of concern now, Jonathan, about this new proposed changes that is involving the South African Police Service and the Quality Council for Trades and Occupations. Honestly, this was the first time I've heard about them. Can you maybe just break down exactly what is being proposed, how these bodies are involved, and why this matters not just to the firearm owners, but to public safety in general in South Africa?
Sure. I think that it will be useful maybe for the purposes of your viewers, because not all of your viewers are necessarily gun owners.
Yes.
And not all of them will necessarily have done some form of competency training for a firearm license before. So let's just describe the environment very, very broadly. The Quality Council for Trades and Occupations delegates a authority to the Professional Firearm Trainers Council to act as the quality assurance body over the implementation and verification of a set of unit standards that all have to do with firearms training. And these range from very basic unit standards, such as handle and use a handgun, to the instructor or the assessor's qualification, and anything in between. Business unit standards, which security officers must have, instructors' qualifications, assessors, tactical unit standards, which typically your cash in transit officer or your rapid response team for the bigger security companies would need that tactical training. And those unit standards are very specific. They're very thorough. They have been tested and developed and improved and have evolved over the years to a very, very high standard of training, one of the highest standards of training for civilians and security companies in the world that is available to civilians. Obviously, military training goes a lot further, but this is some of the best stuff in the world, the best standards in the world as far as civilians are concerned. Now, and this has been done since 2012, when the Professional Firearms Trainers Council was actually established as a private regulatory and oversight quality assurance body at the request of SASITA and SAPS at that stage, because of the enormous mess in terms of unscrupulous service providers selling training certificates to people who wanted to apply for licenses to possess firearms, which meant that every gangster in the corner and every person who wanted to have an easy path to get a firearm license without proper training was able to go that route. So the PFTC came in. Now, in that period from 2012 to now, the statistics, I might be a little bit rough on the statistics, but the PFTC has trained, I think, has certified more than 1 million individual people. And most of those individuals have done more than one unit standard. So shotgun, manual rifle, handgun, whatever. So some persons might have up to 3 or 4 different unit standards. And in other words, that is many millions of unit standards that have been issued on the PFTC learner management system, which is a very technically oriented and thorough database. It can be interrogated by the police over their computers to check the credentials of somebody. and that has been quality assured by them. There are around about 570, 580 training providers across South Africa, and a core of about 890 to 900 assessors, who are the people that are tasked with reviewing the veracity and the competence of these unit standards. And then on top of that, the PFTC has got a system of moderators who draw 10% randomly from all of the unit standards of all of the training providers 4 times a year. And they assess the standard of assessment and the standard of training that has been applied to learners. So it's a very high standard and it works very well. Now, for some reason, and I can only assume the worst, taking shortcuts, once again laying waste to a system that works properly, as we have seen in other institutions, the government has decided to apply its mind, and I talk about the government loosely, to allowing these unit standards to be thrown out and replaced with a skills program, which means like not unit standard based. So the entry barriers for skills programs to be received and done for the public, or for people to get a certificate of a skills program, is a lot easier. Although there's another side to that as well, which I'll talk about in a moment. But essentially, what we are looking at is a situation where, through, again, unscrupulous training providers, like you can go to most towns in this country and buy yourself a driver's license, you will be able to go and buy a certificate of a skills program. Now you've done a skills program, to go and apply for a firearm license. So we are enormously concerned about that. We are a responsible industry. All of us work very hard to become instructors, assessors, moderators. I'm an ITA certified counselor, which is at one of the highest levels that one can operate in training. It's taken me many, many years to get to that level. And we've worked very hard to apply a very strong standard of training in the industry. And even though people find it sometimes onerous and a lot of administration and that, they are pleased when they've done it because they know they've got a good qualification. So now, to cut a long story short, or get to the end of it, there's a division in SAPS called the SAPS Training Division that has had nothing whatsoever to do with training civilians within the context of the PFTC training. The PFTC training relationship with the training authorities and SAPS has been managed under the auspices of the SAPS CFR. And to a large extent, within the training component of it, it has been a happy relationship and one that has worked well. CFR know that people are properly trained. They understand what they're getting, and when they get a statement of results from a PFTC accredited trainer, they know that they can bank on that set of results as being a true reflection of the training that the learner has had. Now, this new SAPS training division, or not new, but their new interest, they want to get into some relationship with the Quality Council for Trades and Occupations, and they want to replace this whole system that has worked so well at the request of the government since 2012 with a skills-based program. And it is absolutely nonsensical. It will be the devolution of proper training standards in our industry.
What would you say will we be losing in terms of depth and quality and competency if this switch is made?
The barrier for people who would apparently qualify to offer and administer these skills programs would be much lower. They might even be people who, quite frankly, would not even qualify for a job as an assistant instructor in one of our present training academies. Certainly not the type of people that I would have instructing my students. So the complete standard of training would go down to the lowest levels, as we have seen with the standard of training in many industries and fields around South Africa. And we cannot afford this. We're not even, it's bad enough with driver's licenses. But when it comes to the lawful possession of firearms, and the enormous debate that is carrying on about firearms and the effect of lawfully owned firearms in bolstering community safety and security in South Africa, it is an enormously serious issue. We cannot afford to mess around with a system that is tried and tested and proven and working, to replace it with something that is untested, unproven, without proper stakeholder negotiation, with just shortcuts in every direction. And particularly at this time in the safety and security environment in South Africa, where community safety and security is such a big thing.
Jonathan, do you think this is just incompetence or a misunderstanding? Is it something more deliberate or sinister? Is it just the government doing what they do and shoving their noses in where they really shouldn't?
One of my concerns, Rian, is that there are two things. There is a possibility, an outside chance, that it will dovetail neatly with the plans of the African National Congress to disarm South Africans. Quite simply, if a working system is interrupted and stopped, because literally on the 1st of July, it may be a situation, if we don't manage to interrupt this, that a PFTC academy like myself will go onto the learner management system to upload a learner, and the system will say, sorry, the database is closed. There will be no competency certificate, no learner management system statement of results delivered, because I won't be able to upload a learner. So it may well be a way that is planned eventually to strangle firearm training. So if we can't get the Firearms Control Amendment Bill in place, we will simply strangle the growth of new firearm applications. There would be no training of security officers. There would be no instructor career path. There would be no range officer career path. And so that might be a parallel objective. And then the other thing is that if it doesn't work and the system does devolve and there is a lot of corruption around the issuing of competency certificates, or proficiency certificates or skills certificates, which impacts on competency applications, it may then alternately provide the government or the police with an opportunity to say, there's such a mess in this environment, we are putting a moratorium on any new competency applications for a year or 2 years or 5 years or whatever period they like, and be able to try and justify it in that way. So there are a number of dead ends here or roads here that all lead into dead ends, dangerous dead ends.
Who are the primary groups that will feel the impact of these changes? I'm looking at training providers, new firearm applicants, existing firearm owners, security professionals. What does this realistically mean for someone trying to legally own and responsibly use a firearm in South Africa?
I think that you've accurately summarized all of the stakeholders that would be concerned. Not all of them, there are more. The retail industry, the security industry, the insurance industry, anybody, national parks, metro police, anybody that needs competently trained personnel to use firearms safely and confidently, any industry, shopping centers, whatever, the public in general, armed response, any of those industries would suffer. The man in the street would suffer simply because of the ability to access the training. We had security companies that turned around a while ago and said, well, it's actually not that important because we train our staff to a much higher level than the basic unit standards. Yes, that's correct. But understand one thing, that for a security officer to be in possession of a firearm in the course of his duties, he has to possess a competency certificate from the South African Police Services, and that is based on the unit standard training. And the instructors, what will happen when the instructors get old, when they die, when they go overseas, when they go to another industry? Who is then going to be the instructor? So you are talking about something here that is like a national university. This industry, the PFTC and the academies actually do the work that one would see a university like UCT or Stellenbosch or Pretoria or whatever doing in their region. We do everything, all of the training, all of the certification, the quality assurance, all of that. And it is managed to a large extent, to a 99.999% flawlessly. The PFTC are even called upon by SAPS to assist them in professional investigations to help them bring criminals to book around firearms law and firearms training law. That's how highly the PFTC is regarded by SAPS. So it really just makes no sense.
So to summarize it, your concern is that this will make South Africa less safe than what it currently is.
100%. 100%. And my understanding, I need to be careful with my words because I don't want to get dragged off to court or something, but my understanding is that some of the people that are pushing this are disillusioned training providers who found it difficult to comply with the quality standards of the PFTC.
Okay.
We are busy with a critical review of the so-called skills programs that have been compiled as a potential replacement for the unit standards. Well, I can tell you something. It looks like it's been drafted by primary school children. The grammar and the technical content of it is shocking. And I'm not going to lay out that stuff for them in the short term so that they can have somebody like us or this campaign telling them what to fix and how to fix it, because I don't think they can fix it. And even if they do fix it, I don't think it can be properly administered by the structure that they are proposing. But the standards, the standard of those skills programs is shocking. You can see that it has been, and they have used AI to draft it. I can spot AI, most of us can spot AI from a mile away. And it's a cut and paste job. And it is embarrassing.
Once again, the timing is very interesting because it's like, what, 6 weeks or whatever before this thing expires at the end of June. And suddenly, here we are with this. The timing, again, as with the FCA bill.
Riaan, it's not a big surprise that this 30th of the June deadline is arriving. The industry has known about it for some time. And to an extent, they have not been as proactive as they should have been in getting this together. Safe Citizen was pulled into it about 3 weeks ago at the request of some of the industry players. And it has been evaluated as being the proper forum for the backbone of this campaign. So SAGA, NatShoot, NAFU, other associations, but primarily those at the moment, are very much involved with Safe Citizen, with some of the lead service providers, the training providers, and the PFTC themselves. And we're pulling this thing together. It's going to be launched tomorrow formally. I will be sending to you a media statement after our interview, which is embargoed until 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, and then it can go out. And we're going to push it as hard as we possibly can. I am in close touch with Rob Hutchinson of dearsouthafrica.co.za, and he is standing by ready to push it as well. So within the resources available to us, we're going to be doing everything that we can do. But certainly the industry is now pulling together. It is a very intensive campaign, and it is completely taking up literally 80% of Safe Citizens' time. The other 20%, we're still fighting that firearms control amendment thing. So we're busy in this space.
Are you aware of any other industry players that are getting involved other than the couple that you've just mentioned, you and Salgo and so on?
Yes, we are. There is another industry player that I'm not quite ready to reveal at the moment, okay, but they have close ties with government around commerce and industry, and a fairly good communication with government. And certainly they are very focused on community safety and security. So we're looking at a very good and strong relationship there as well. At this point in time, where I'm sitting now, I think we've got a 50-50 chance of getting a moratorium in place on the implementation of any changes. Where when I started 3 weeks ago, I wasn't sure that we had even a 10% chance.
I think before we go, I just need to ask, because I think I can safely say that people are going to ask, what are we to do? What is next for the ordinary firearm owner out there, just the ordinary citizen who feels this is a threat, even if it's going to affect the quality of the armed response that they pay for? What are they to do from their side about this? Will you guys be leading them in that?
Riaan, this is not my first rodeo in campaigns fighting for the public. And in my experience, it is very difficult to get people to react meaningfully and immediately unless they perceive that there is an immediate threat. This is literally an immediate threat because of the very short time frame that we have got to work on it. There are training providers who I think are not yet involved or not very concerned or not aware of this. It will mean the end of their business. That's just on an industry side of things. The public, there's only one way that the public can be effective, two ways. They can get involved in spreading the word. They can use their influence. Every single person in this country can influence another person, even if it's only their own granny. They cannot say, I'm not a public spokesperson and I can't speak on TV and I can't write letters and I don't know powerful people. You don't need to know powerful people. You need to be able to have a conversation with someone in your family or your neighbor or someone in the queue at the shopping center or in the sports club or the Tupperware club or the queue in the hospital or the queue for pension or wherever, and have this conversation. We are talking about community safety and security at the end of the day. And I'm concerned that our government does not have the same view on community safety and security as the people that live in the communities. I think that when you are a leader and you are driving around surrounded by 10 black BMWs with flashing blue lights and the best teams that SAPS can field for your personal protection, it is easy to lose sight of the fact of how the public in this country live in their streets. And we are talking about an effect that will go down everywhere. And we've talked about this with the commercial security industry, which is more than 4 times the size of SAPS. every single person in this country, and I've said it on previous interviews with you, unless they live in a lighthouse or somewhere in the desert alone, has today, somewhere in their journeys, or someone in their family has been kept safe by a security officer with a firearm. Even if they didn't pay that security officer, they might just have been parked at the same traffic light as him.
Yes.
The fact that he's there, they have enjoyed that protection. That protection will be stripped from them. So people have got to get involved, and there are two ways they can do it. First thing, the three ways: they can talk to everybody they know, they can join associations, they can support associations, and they can make donations. 10 Rand a month. 10 Rand a month from 10,000 people comes to a lot of money. It's useful. It keeps us in the fight. It keeps the associations in the fight. Do something, but get involved with it.
For the viewers, just a thought. If the systems that are responsible for training and competency start to change, but for the worst, it affects much more than just policy. It affects real-world safety, yours and mine. So the question is, are these changes moving us forward or setting us back? And I think we've heard some compelling arguments, not only for the absolute urgency of this matter that has now popped up, but also for the fact that the concerns that this is taking us backwards are very valid. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If this is something that you think more South Africans need to hear, please share this conversation far and wide. As always, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and smash that bell icon so that you get notifications of new videos coming out. And if you are interested in any of the training on offer by Fortis or the Loan Operator Program, there is a link in the description below the video. Check it out, and we look forward to seeing you on a range one of these days. Jonathan, thank you so much. I'm sure we'll talk more on this subject soon.
Thank you very much, Riaan. Yeah, keep safe, and I will send you that media release.